I'm sure everybody was looking for a great video from me this week, but unfortunately I live in Iowa and we got hit by a huge storm last week. There's still places a week later that do not have power. Here in this building, I did not have power for 2 days. Luckily, I did have power at my house, but a lot of my treetops at my house were torn down. So this week I thought I would just give you a little update on some of the projects that I've been working on. I'm driving my Sunbeam Alpine today. The day that the storm hit, I was driving my classic Toyota FJ40, and luckily I had a couple minutes to pull it inside before the storm hit. But that's the real difference between an inland hurricane and a hurricane that might hit a place on the coast, is that you only have a couple minutes warning. There is no detection of an inland hurricane, and that's why it's so destructive. Here's that D4 Caterpillar that I've shown in a few videos before. You can see I have the track tightened up now. I'm still waiting for a couple spacers, so I have some washers in there just temporarily right now. I have the head back on the engine. Changed all the fluids, drained out the hydraulic tank. I took out the radiator and had that redone. The radiator does have a built-in engine cooler. You can see everything that I have taken off of the Caterpillar I have media blasted and painted. Up here is the brand new seat. You can also see that I've replaced all of the hydraulic hoses. If you have one of these machines and you're wondering what type of hose I used, you can see the numbers right there. They actually work very well with this style of clamp. If we climb up inside, you can see the new instrument panel and the switch that I put in. I should have this fully completed in a couple days. And so that's an update on the Cat D4. I'm going to have this out in a couple weekends, doing some real work. I'll try to get some great video of that. You might recognize this Alfa Romeo from previous videos. Has a new coat of paint on it now, but that is not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you here in the paint booth. This is Barn Sprite number 6. This car has a new coat of primer on it now. This is the one that was all sorts of different colors, the one that wasn't all fully red. The new color is selected. If you have a guess of what color I'm going to paint this, comment below. Or tell me what color you would paint it. The other Barn Find Sprites are still sitting here. I haven't really touched them. Although, car number 2 up here, that's this one right here. I do have the drive shaft ready, so I'll be ready to try to start that car pretty soon. That's the Austin Healey that had the rice in the engine. The head is out at the machine shop right now, so I'm waiting on that. You can see I have the drive shaft ready. So I just need some time to get this moved over to the lift where that Healey 100 is sitting, and then I can throw the drive shaft in. You can see on Sprite number 2, I haven't done any work on it since you've seen it. Over here on here, I have cleaned up this engine, and the radiator needed rebuilt, and that is done, but I need to go pick that up. I've rearranged a bunch of things since last time I brought you back here. You can see the Mike Dale car sitting next to my other Frog Eye Sprite race car. Something I've had a lot of comments on recently is my parts supply. I really need to get this cleaned up, but I have a lot of parts, so don't be surprised when I pull out boxes full of the parts that I need. All of these things are all different kinds of cars. Most of these boxes I have labeled, so this box has an MGB engine. That box has an MGB engine. There's an MGB engine in there. Let's see what this top one is. Doesn't say. I have a lot of mini engines, a lot of mini parts, a lot of Sprite parts, MGB parts. Behind me here, this is all MGTD stuff. This is all Land Rover stuff. A lot of that is Austin Healey 3000 stuff. Right here is a whole crate of Sunbeam Alpine parts. That one's Alpine parts. That one's Alpine and Tiger parts. This one's all Sprite parts. A lot of vintage Sprite racing parts. That's all doors for minis. That's all Healy 100 parts, Barkley parts. That's all parts for a Sunbeam Fun Wagon. I've got Moke parts down there. Let's see, what do we have back here? This one is Lotus parts and AC Bristol parts. Up there, that's Jensen Healy parts, so that's a Lotus 907 engine sitting there. That's a hard top for a Healy 100. Says this one has Land Rover parts, Jensen Healy parts, Cobra parts, and Sunbeam Imp parts. That's a very strange grouping of stuff there. Here I've got some more mini engines, MGB engines, rear ends. That's a roll bar for a Moke up there. A bunch of transmissions and rear ends. This one is Datsun parts. That one's Mini parts, Morris Mini parts. Let's see, that's Healy 3000 parts. Looks like that's a bunch of more mini engines and probably Sprite engines next to it. There's some Ford V8 stuff up there, primarily stuff that you would use with a Sunbeam Tiger. Check out that flywheel there. It says, I was here 8/31/89. So 1989 was when that flywheel was put on that engine, possibly when that engine was rebuilt. Up on top there, that's a whole bunch of Sunbeam doors, front quarters, lots of Sunbeam parts. I think that's all MGB doors. That one I think is more mini parts, Sunbeam parts. And I believe this one is also Sunbeam parts. Nope, this one is MGB parts. Coming around the corner, all these containers, these are for Sunbeam Tiger. I've got engines for all kinds of various things up there. I know there's Spitfire, MGB. There's a Datsun engine you can see with the alloy cover there. Sprite, Midget, all kinds of stuff. Right up here is where the Junkyard Diggs engine was sitting. That one that they used in their Midget recently. This box over here is all MGB parts. This one's Sunbeam parts. I've got a bunch of stuff for Sunbeam Arrows and the later Sunbeam Alpines. And of course I have a whole bunch of parts cars. And a lot of these parts cars are filled with the parts that go to that type of car. So a lot of these MGBs are filled with MGB parts, and I just have stacks of wheels and tires and all kinds of stuff in here. I know a lot of people are waiting for the next installment on the Jag XJ6, but the right side fuel tank is leaking, and I think I want to get that fixed before I do anything else on it. Soon I'll be getting to this Tiger. We'll get that running and driving. I haven't forgotten about the Morris, but I'm not sure if I'll have any time to get to this until this winter. The Bug Eye is doing great, of course. Took that on a trip. And over here in the corner is that MGA. You guys haven't seen this car in a while. I really need to get back to this car. I'm surprised that I don't have it going, and I haven't been driving it this summer, so I need to order some brake parts, and we'll get to doing a video on this one. Let's see what we have over here. These green seats go to a Humber Super Snipe. Next to it, that's transmission for an International Scout, Chevrolet Inline 6. Back there, it looks like MGB, maybe Sprite parts. A bunch of Alfa Romeo wheels. A whole bunch of Sprite racing parts. Back there, MGB parts. Some more International Scout parts. Here's a whole slew of MGB, Mini, and Sunbeam parts. Sometimes when I have too many parts cars up on my shelves, I'll disassemble them and take what might be good from them. Here's a V8. This is a International 305 out of an International Scout. More MGB parts. Bunch of Ford V8s. Over here, this looks like a crate full of MGA parts, Sprite parts, and Nash Metropolitan parts. Here's a whole bunch more Sprite parts. Some more Sprite engines. Whole bunch of heads. Whole bunch of clutches and flywheels. More MGA parts, MGA engines, fenders, doors. We're getting into Sunbeam parts here. This is one of my piles of TR3 parts. Some MGA wheels here. Here's more TR3 parts. If anyone needs any of this stuff, it's taking up too much room around here. This is an inline 6 out of a International Harvester. This is kind of interesting. This is the back end to a Spanish-built Mini. And of course, a couple more Mini bonnets. I just have a whole row of doors in the other room. Some more Mini seats. This is pretty neat. This is a Perkins diesel. So that's a British-built diesel connected to a Kohler generator. This is kind of my Triumph TR3, TR4, TR6 area. Have a whole bunch of engines, transmissions. That one has a Laycock overdrive on it. Bunch of air cleaners, different stuff. This is Toyota FJ40 stuff, and then Porsche stuff. So here's some more Porsche 356 stuff. I think a few of my parts cars are pretty interesting. This is a Mini Countryman Woody wagon. Above it, one of the minivans. Obviously, they're in poor shape, but they could be restored. And a lot of things that you may have seen before in other videos might be on the shelf now, waiting for me to get back to them, like that Tiger. I've got a Simca up there. I've got a Renault. There's that Auto Union way up on the shelf over there. Here's an old Nissan Z race car. I'd like to get this running again at some point. I put a Chevrolet V8 in it. This way, it should be reliable and cheap to run. And I can just get some friends together and we can take that to the track and not really have to worry about much. Got some more Sunbeams, MGBs. Here's that classic FJ40 that I was driving the day of the storm. Luckily, I got it pulled in and safe inside in time before the storm hit. A lot more A-Series engine stuff. And here, of course, is my favorite project car at the moment, the Morris Mini Beach Car. This car looks a whole lot better since I washed it off. Hopefully I will get a chance to get this car running and driving soon. And you guys can follow along with me on that journey. I hope you don't mind that I needed a little break this week. One trick to getting the barn finds that I've been uncovering running is that I have a whole warehouse full of parts. So it doesn't cost me much. Of course, wear items wear out, but other than that, I probably have what I need here. It also allows me to do my videos pretty quickly without waiting for parts. And I prefer to put these parts onto a car rather than send them to the junkyard and buy a new part. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with some great content for you.